I'm going to read this excerpt from Tacitus about the Nero persecution. Yet no human effort, no princely largeness nor offerings to the gods could make the infamous rumor disappear that Nero had somehow ordered the fire. Therefore, in order to abolish the rumor, Nero falsely accused and executed with most exquisite punishments those people called Christians, who were infamous for their abominations. The originator of the name Christ was executed as a criminal by Procurator Pontius Pilate during the reign of Tiberius. And though repressed, this destructive superstition erupted again, not only through Judea, which was the origin of the evil, but also through the city of Rome, to which all that is horrible and shameful floods together and is celebrated. Therefore, first those who were seized who admitted their faith, then using information they provided, a vast multitude were attached to them, or a vast multitude were convicted, not so much for the crime of burning the city, but for their hatred of the human race. And perishing, they were additionally made into sports. They were killed by dogs having the hides of beasts attached to them, or they were nailed to crosses, or set aflame. And when the daylight passed away, they were used as nighttime lamps. Nero gave his own gardens for the spectacle and performed a circus game, in the habit of a charioteer mixing with the plebes, or driving about the race course, even though they were clearly guilty and merited being made the most recent example of the consequences of crime. People began to pity these sufferers because they were consumed not for public good, but on account of the fierceness of one man. So Tacitus hated the Christians. I'm not going to read this all, but it's back and forth between Trajan and Pliny. It's Pliny the Younger. Here's an excerpt. Therefore, I postponed my investigation and hastened to consult you, for the matter seemed to me to warrant consulting you, especially because of the number involved. For many persons of every age, every rank, also of both sexes, are and will be endangered. For the contagion of this superstition has spread not only to cities, but also to villages and farms. But it seems possible to check and cure it. It's certainly quite clear that the temples, which had been almost deserted, had begun to be frequented, and that the established religious rites long neglected are being resumed, and everywhere sacrificial animals are coming, for until now very few purchasers could be found. Hence the sorry, reading the wrong part. However, that the sum of substance of their own fault and error had been accustomed to meet on the fixed day before dawn, sing responsive hymns to Christ as to a God, to bind themselves by oath not to some crime, but not to commit fraud, theft, adultery, not falsify their trust, nor refuse to return a trust when called upon to do so. When this was over, it was their custom to depart and to assemble again to partake food, but ordinary and innocent food. Even this they affirmed they had ceased to do after my edict, by which, in accordance with your instructions, I had forbidden political associations. Accordingly, I judged it all the more necessary to find out the truth by torturing 2 female slaves who were deaconesses, but I discovered nothing else but depraved, excessive superstition. He winds up putting him to death, by the way, after torturing these women. So he finds that, I mean, if you go on and you read Pliny, and there's other, you can go to this this great website, earlychristianwritings.com, and see, you know, guys like Tacitus, Suetonius, Pliny, Celsus, the heretics, the church fathers, the Gnostics. Some of the church fathers are heretics. Odd guys like Papias. All the stuff, basically, all the pre-Nicene stuff, although some things are anti-Nicene, like, you know, Eusebius of Caesarea. But it's a great archive for looking up stuff on Christianity. But it's funny, Pliny hates the Christians. He goes through and he says, I don't find they don't commit any crimes, and they just commit themselves to doing, you know, good. He lists all these good things, but he's still sickened by Christianity. He believes that he hates the stubbornness of it, that they won't burn incense to gods, or that they call the worship of the gods superstitious. And it's the Christians calling the gods, and, you know, that the sun has to be pulled across the sky with a chariot, and a god for the water, god for sea, instead of a god that stepped back and that made the universe and then stepped back. That they get called atheists. Gelasius, during the Diocletian persecution, when he issues his Edict of Tolerance, which is a false tolerance because there's really no tolerance granted, he says that the Christians do not worship the Roman gods, or he calls traditional gods, nor do they worship their own Christian god, but they worship no god. And the charge of atheist is a group of people, it's the Christians that were first called the atheists for these reasons. This gets thrown back and forth. But it's funny, it's not the Christians first to testify about the Nero persecution. Again, why would they? It was Tacitus, and then a few other writers. Tacitus is considered one of the most reliable ancient historians, if not the most reliable historian from antiquity. Far more reliable than Josephus. I'll end the video there. I'll go on to part 2. Peace to you.